and it doesn't let her off the hook as much as I think that it humanizes our parents.
Yeah.
And I think the older we get, the more we need to humanize our parents and to see them as a person, a real person, and not something
more as the person than the role, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It's funny thinking someone. One of the things I heard today, because I talked about Mikhail's baptism, is someone saying, like, I know someone who tells their daughter that there'll never be another man that loves me the same way I love you. And it's one of those things of, like, I'm not sure that's what I want to say to my, to my daughter. Like, I think I'd rather just say, like, I love you. And
yeah,
that's all that matters. And jokes aside, I get to preach on hope for this. So, like, I cannot drop enough fodder for, like, I'm baptizing my daughter and talking about hope. Like, okay, here we go. But one of the jokes being, like, that I have hopes for her, and that I know that in 16 years I'm going to have to really wrestle with what that looks like and what she's doing. But even something as simple as, like, it may not be a guy that comes into her life then. It could be a girl. And if I'm truly wanting to just love Michaela for whoever she is, not even putting those blinders on her yet. Or yet, but not putting those blinders on her. And while I know I will not be able to control how she feels and thinks, and she's going to be a kid, and no matter how many times I say your daddy's not perfect, I'll still probably have that aura at times. Oh, maybe at least for a year or something. But just wanting to be the best, like, parent I can be for her. Learning from, these are the things that I felt my family was able to excel at, and these are the things I felt they struggled in. It would probably be good for me to work on these areas ahead of time in my own parenting. And I think I'm trying to channel what was once just kind of the sitting frustration with my mom a lot, and some of what my dad did into, okay, how can that just inform my parenting, and how can that be my controlling of what happened? Because I can't change what went on before. And I get drained very quickly when I dwell on something. I know it zaps a lot of my energy and a lot of my creativity and all that. So
chronically overwhelmed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I have a sense of pride in that I don't want to say I'm overwhelmed with a lot of things. And then the avid thinker in me wants to go, like, well, maybe you're more overwhelmed than you know, and you're overwhelmed about everything. And that's an overwhelming thought, to think that you're overwhelmed about anything, everything. The grand slam, if you will. And just being able to, okay, this is an overwhelming thing, but doesn't mean I have to be overwhelmed. I can name this as, like, yes, it's a big deal, and this is something to go through, and there's no shame in it being something that can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to depict my state of wellness
Right.
day to day. Which all sounds really good right now, because I'm not feeling currently, this exact moment, terribly overwhelmed by them. But
so, yeah. So I think again that the best thing you can do for Michaela, and if you have other children that come along, the best thing you can do for them is work on self. The best thing you can do for Katie is work on self.
yeah,
Really, the best thing you can do for your mother and your sister is work on self.
yeah. I'm not, you all need to do this. What do I need to do?
Right. And being able able to let their work be their work.
Mm.
And that's the tough part.
Yeah. But I that statement of they're doing the best they can resonates with me, and I don't want it to have the like condescending sense, and I don't think I did not get that from what you said. I think for whatever reason in my head, my life experience, it sounds like making an excuse for, which is not what it's supposed to be. It's just naming the.
It's recognizing a reality.
Yeah. And I mean, my guess at the moment would either be something in the family of origin or just the way I've heard people talk about that before. Maybe that there's more of a lack of grace in my background than I really ever thought about. I would imagine, if it just running out loud right now, having a parental relationship that embodies a lot of passive aggressive and arguing and fighting and bringing things back up, that would flavor what it sounds like to actually be graceful to someone. This is fun, and that is something I can control and not dwell on when I'm thinking about it. Like, this is what I mean by saying that, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah. And you know, I think about going back to where you were anticipating the staff meeting last week, and you know, you'd come up with what I thought was a pretty good strategy forward, and by stating, you know, as they were talking about things that affected your role or part of your role, said, yeah, I've been thinking about this. These are some things that I want to support and things that I think we can move in this direction, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, I think those are how you turn what you're developing in self and your efforts of self-differentiation. This is what affects your pattern of leadership. Is to be able to say to another, not mine.
Mine. Just combine into a me.
I am, but to say, you know, as things come up, yeah, you know, this is, you know, and if it's true, this is something I have thought about, and you know, these are my ideas about the direction that you know, I think we should be going in, and you know, these are the kinds of things that I'm capable of doing. These are some areas where you know, I would like to find somebody with some skills and blah da 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 da, because I know in reality that's something that could be better handled by somebody else. So I think you're leading, you're thinking forward, but you're also offering some parameters of at least what you can offer and not offer.
Right.
That's leadership.
Yeah.
That's using self as leadership.
And then not taking on the anxiety of the word escaping me right now, self-doubt or the insecurity someone else may have, and like, I can say this and I'm not going to go home and wonder what you think about it. I'm going to say this to try to best be a partner with you in ministry.
Yeah.
It's amazing if I just stop thinking about what other people think about what I think.
Yeah. You know, probably they don't think all that much about what you think.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think that's...
You're probably a lot less than you think that they think.
Right? Yeah. I think they think less than I think that I think that I think. Yeah, it's... I know from conversation with you that I have a pattern of... trying to find the right adjective for the kind of events, like a birth or a death, that for at least a period of time, I find myself with a much clearer perspective of things that I think are actually important and probably not as important. I would really like, I guess we kind of talked about this with Carl too, in his verbatim, being able to do that in the non-life death situations, maintaining that eye of God, if you will, towards what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's when we are able to, in our clearest thinking, one of the things I think that our clearest thinking offers us is an ability to prioritize. Or at least see the priorities. We may not prioritize them, but we can see the priorities. Like the birth of Michaela. You realize that her well-being, which you and Katie are completely responsible for at the moment, is really, really important.
Yeah.
And a priority. She will not live without you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a crazy thing to ponder.
Yeah.
Deeper than that, but yeah.
Yeah, she will not live without you at this point in her life. But then to be able to see the people pulling you in for this program, what are we going to do, and their anxiety, or chances are they're going to live okay without you.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite things to think about and to believe and try to think about other people is most people, I truly believe, have the capability to think and solve or at least work through their own issues.
Yeah.
And so how do I not take their issues on as mine? How do I not take their problems on as mine? How do I keep myself differentiated from them, staying in contact with them, staying in relationship with them, and maybe help them to think clearer, ask the curious questions, and do reflective listening, and all of those kinds of things. And one of my favorite questions to a person who's presenting a problem: well, what can you do? Yeah. So one thing you think you can do, in this? And, they may not be able to think in the moment, but later on they might think, yeah, there is one thing I could do, and it might be to pick up the phone and call so-and-so and talk to them rather than stew about them. But to let that be their work. I'm here as a resource. I'm here as someone to help you think a little clearer. But what you do and what you don't do, I really don't care.
Yeah.
I care about you, but I don't care what you do and what you don't do. That's your problem.
That's your work.
That's your work.
Yeah.
So how can I maintain that kind of separation, but also remaining in contact with the person? How can I remain as emotionally neutral that I'm not taking their problem as my problem? And it's not easy.
Yeah.
Anxiety always creeps up on us, and when another person is feeling desperate or feeling in pain or feeling overwhelmed, it's the natural thing to want to lift
that person
out of that. But if we keep doing that for them, they never learn how to do it for themselves.
It's funny, I was thinking about last night, and the only kind of conversation that comes up when someone's about to have an appendectomy, Kristen asked me if I'd ever had any stomach issues. And it's like, well, as a matter of fact, let me tell you about Katie's birth. Like, or Michaela's birth. And that, what I said out loud last night was like, I don't really have I don't remember my stomach is starting to feel slightly uncomfortable. It went from nothing to doubled over.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, just like that. And it's like, that probably means I wasn't paying attention to, and granted, probably worthwhile at the time, but, or understandable is a better word to use than worthwhile. And that's still something to work on, to where I can notice, okay, this is starting to come up. Let me not hate my life tomorrow. What can I do to ease out of this? And just like, I'm going to worry less about how anyone else is responding to this and just get myself regulated enough. I think that word enough is probably a key part if I were to actually write out a guiding principle.
Yeah.
That I'm not so caught up in doing it perfectly, that it's just, what can I do better with this?
I think better is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can I do this better? How can I do it better in this kind of situation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and what would be an evidence? What would be evident that I'm performing better, or I'm practicing better, or I'm behaving better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and all of those things are, that's what goes into, I think, establishing guiding principles. It's, there's the statement, I want to be better at regulating my anxiety when I'm faced with my mother.
Yeah.
Okay. And evidence of my regulating my anxiety will be whatever.
This. Yeah.
This.
Is that part of our last assignment?
The evaluation?
Yeah.
It could be.
Having some of those guiding principles and.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think a guiding principle is, as you think about how you are working at the outcome, you might have a guiding principle about it, or you've and say, this was my principle in applying my learning about myself. Okay, outcomes. Can't remember the numbers. 309.6. Yeah. So, yeah, this was my guiding principle, and this is how I think that I use the guiding principle. This is what I saw in myself, or this is the evidence
Of that.
and you can say, and I wrote a verbatim on this. Yeah. So again, inviting you to be really specific about it. So I wrote a verbatim about it. I did a process reflection about it, or it was something that we covered in clearness committee, or I referred back to our assignment on the Family of Origin project, or my reading Savage's Listening and Caring book. This is you apply. So, anything that you can do to draw in the things that you've done
to show that this
applies. Show that it applies to the outcome.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think, thank you. I think it's a really helpful conversation in working through the things I said I wanted to work through when I got here.
Well, you're welcome. I guess the real work starts after Monday, after the unit is gone and is over, and you get to decide what you do with your learning.
Yeah, the training wheels come on.
Yeah, and you get to decide how to apply it.
I think right here, I appreciate Heather so much, because I feel like not everyone, not all people could go into a situation in a group with people that are not as similar to them as they are to each other and have a good experience. And and so I appreciate her and her authenticity through a lot of things. When she was talking about I guess her anxiety of not having this space on such a
Mhm.
regular basis without it having to be something that was intentional. I think that's legit. Like, I think part of the, I guess, orientation, disorientation, reorientation process we've had with CPE so far, we've had a structure to it, and so there's going to be another one when we don't have that structure as things start to go on.
Yeah, and part of that structure is what's called transformative learning theory. The transformative learning theory is a theory by Jack Mazarone and others, but he really was sort of a really big thinker of it. And it might be helpful to look into this, but it's an adult learning theory. But adults really don't learn unless something happens in their life that stops them in their tracks.
Mm.
And he called that the disorienting dilemma.
Mm.
Okay? And the thing that it does is it makes us question our previously held assumptions.
Mm.
Okay, I thought something. I grew up thinking this way, or my experience led me to believe this, and now I come to this, and I got to do a complete reassessment about it.
Yeah.
And so that's where we learn, and that's where we change and are
Grow,
transformed
yeah,
and
yeah.
grow. And I think CPE in part is a structure that allows that to happen.
Yeah.
But it's I think working with adults, I am just, if you're curious about it, just invite you to
Transformative learning theory.
transformative learning theory.
Do you mind if I write that down in my level?
No, go
Time?
ahead.
Electronic
Go
book?
ahead. Yeah, I mean, it might help in your work with small groups of adults, or your work with individuals at different levels,
Mhm.
to help them recognize what a disorienting dilemma is, and what it means to have your previously held assumptions challenged.
It's fun when you're the one causing the challenges to happen versus on the receiving end, right?
It can be. It can be delightful.
Being in I'm just thinking of the folks in Revelation right now. What do you mean it's not telling you what's going to happen by the end of the world? Yeah.
Well, like my sermon of the other week when we was talking about John's dilemma.
Yeah.
That was a disorienting dilemma. How do I make Christ and his resurrection relevant to people who, A, are not eyewitnesses, 2, don't know any eyewitness account,
Mhm.
or a person who's alive that's a witness to these things. And then they have been told that, the second coming is about here.
Yeah.
So that's a disorienting dilemma. Okay, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What does it mean? Like that. I think it's funny, in the last process reflection I did, it asks, what did you learn this week about your ministry? I think I'd said two things that I relearned was how much I enjoy being in a space where you can wrestle with those kind of things, and I like teaching, but I also like teaching a lot because of hearing other people's stories and perspectives and getting to have those conversations. It's almost like, it took however many years of everything to be comfortable with we're going to step outside the box here and go with these disorienting things. Once you're comfortable with it, I guess for me there's a thrill of the learning that happens. That took intentionality and took time to get used to it, and took a coming to grips with yes, this is not as rock solid perhaps as this is like, this is not a very binary way of doing things. It's not like either right or wrong. There's a gray area, and having to be cool with being in the gray area. And then the fruit that comes from allowing that to happen, because you allow God to work in ways that you're not dictating anymore. I miss that, I think, in some of the stuff that I do, or was doing. Now I'm doing this here, but and if I look back, I think the places that I do get to see that happen, like with pub theology, with people having conversations about things and
Right.
the teaching, that I'm remembering how much energy I get from those things and how much joy I find in being in those places. And that remembering stuff about just naming this learning theory of, if I can help invite people into this, whether they come in or not, and be there to support them as they're being disoriented versus good luck.
Yeah.
That's a solid ministry if you need to take that.
Well, we're at the hour anyway.
Fair enough.
Okay. This is Bill.